Before we begin, 3 messages. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. What mobile platform do companies like eBay, NBC Universal, the Los Angeles Times, Razorfish, and PayPal use to build their cross-platform native applications? Titanium by Appcelerator. They aren't alone. There are now over 25,000 apps deployed by Appcelerator, which has been called the Rosetta Stone of app development. And you can start now for free. Just go to www.appcelerator.com for more information. So, you've taken some of the advice that has come from Untethered.tv guests, built an app, and now you're turning your attention to generating some hard-earned revenue. Then you should be looking at Pontiflex app leads. Some of your peers who are using app leads are earning CPMs 100 times the industry average. And if you need any other reasons to start, I'll give you 2 more. You can run sign-up ads from top brands, the ones that you recognize, and it won't take your precious users out of your app. Go to appleads.com, that's appleads.com to sign up. Hello everybody! Welcome to Untethered.tv. I'm your host, and you know what? Founder of Untethered.tv. I don't ever say that, but this time I thought I'm going to shake it up a little bit. I'm the founder of Untethered.tv. This is that place you come to every day, it seems, to listen to how mobile entrepreneurs are building out their businesses, and hopefully these lessons are actually going to help you build yours out. Or if you are a business and you're trying to figure out how to leverage mobile or leverage these services, this is the place to come. What we do is we talk about things in an open forum to try to actually help you get your business in the mobile space or leverage these technologies. Don't go build first. Look what's out there. Survey, bring what you can in, and then go and spend some money on those services, and then to test to see how things go. And we got a great episode, and I'm thinking forward here because think about what when you're trying to prove out a plan, when you're actually building out a mobile strategy, or when you're actually trying to figure out how to leverage services like Foursquare, or maybe not so much Gowalla anymore, and these massive announcements that Facebook is about places and all these coupons and all this stuff out there. You're trying to figure out how to maximize that and how to generate a return, and what that return is. Where do you turn to? Well, this is what we're talking about today. This is I've got a great company here from Santa Monica in MomentFeed, and they're focusing on location-based engagements. And we're going to dive into this to understand what this means, how you can use it, where the idea comes from, some of the results that they've had. They're currently in beta, and hopefully this is a very informative episode for that. And with that, I'm going to introduce the founder and CEO, Rob Reed. Thanks, Rob, for coming on the show and sharing a little bit of the knowledge and explaining what MomentFeed is. Really appreciate you having here.
Thank you, Rob. It's good to be here.
I spoke already. I've spoken too long already, but I want to set the scene very well for this, because I see this a lot. A lot of companies are trying to figure this out, and they're doing things that I think are insane, that any logical person would not do, like 40% or 50% discounts if you're nearby. That kind of stuff is over the top, and there's got to be some kind of controls before companies start going out of business, because I think location and services around location can affect price, affects profitability, affects the livelihood of some of these companies. And before we dive in, we need a little bit more information. So let's talk about MomentFeed and the services that you guys are doing, and then talk about the industry. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. MomentFeed. What is it?
MomentFeed is a location-based analytics and campaign management platform. We are bringing in multiple sources, the biggest ones being Facebook and Foursquare and Twitter and Gowalla, currently in our beta, and really just trying to bring it all together on a comprehensive basis, specifically for companies that have 20 or more locations.
Okay.
That's pretty much our focus. So, the platform, our solution is really built around the McDonald's use case, and with 30,000 global locations, on down to those that have generally hundreds is a good starting place, because really the problem that we're solving is the fragmentation of all this data and customer interaction, not just from Foursquare, Facebook, and Twitter, but across potentially hundreds, tens of thousands of locations.
But that's got to be the biggest challenge here, is that no platform has won yet. I mean, even Foursquare is the largest, and I say that, I mean the largest native check-in application or location-based application.
Yeah, the largest pure play.
Pure play. I mean, it only has, it has less than 15 million users, right? So
Right.
it's by far, it's small, really, in the grand scheme of actual people who carry these smartphones with them. But it is a growing thing. But you really can't bet on a platform yet, can you? Like a single platform?
Right. No, you can't. And even though brands would like to,
Makes it easy.
It's like, it's like having a web analytics tool that only measures traffic from one source.
Yeah.
It's like, we just want to see traffic from Google search, and let's ignore all the traffic coming from blogs and from Twitter and from Facebook. Why would you do that?
Well, there had to have been. You guys started this last April of 2010, and I mean, walk through some of the reasonings. You ran a blog that focused on, or you wrote on a blog, and it was your blog that focused on the location-based market beforehand. So you must have looked at many opportunities. But what was it about this space that made you get into and start MomentFeed?
Well, I was doing social media consulting, I guess you could call it, from 2007 to 2009, and that's when I started maxgladwell.com, and that was my blog and kind of my consulting platform.
Yep.
And I'd say that was, and even maybe a couple of years before that, I'd characterize that as social media 1.0, which took place through the computer, PC, and browser. And then in 2009, I started with a company called Zoombox. I was their VP of Marketing and Government Relations. And without going into too much detail, we were trying to replicate the USPS, the Postal Service, online. So we were using street addresses as the delivery, as a digital delivery point. So kind of like an email address that's tied to your street address,
Okay.
But completely secure. So it really was a location platform. It was taking the digital world and laying it on top of the physical world. And during that year, 2009, I think that's where we saw the transition to what I would call social media 2.0, which is now taking place through smartphones and applications, and it's happening in the real world. And so I pretty much took all of that experience and knowledge, and Steve Jobs calls it connecting the dots. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. And I saw platforms like Radian6 and a few of the other social media platforms rise out of social media 1.0. Saw Foursquare getting traction and really kind of starting on the same growth trajectory that Twitter was on, and saw that the location really presented a new paradigm for social media and social media analytics, where the place was the primary signal versus all other social media monitoring tools where the keyword or the brand is the primary signal.
Absolutely.
So that was pretty much my conclusion, that this kind of new era of social media was going to require a dedicated platform around place. And that, at the time, smartphones were at around 20% adoption, and Nielsen just posted the other day that we're at 40%.
Yeah.
So in just over a year, probably about almost 2 years actually, we went from 20% to 40% in the U.S.
It's pretty incredible, and you must have been exposed during all of your background to opportunities, other than this, or simpler opportunities, we'll say, because we see today, and you see it all the time. Everybody started this, a check-in service. There's Foursquare and Gowalla, and now there's Yelp, and even MLB.TV allows you to check into the ballparks now, and everybody's got this kind of scattered approach, and it's getting pretty tired. Like the check-in is ultimately dead, and now people are looking for discovery. which is a different business. But you must have looked at all this and said, you know what, I could build a platform that allows me to gauge how how location as a as a business driver is, and which is what MomentFeed is. Or I could go out and build a company that builds a piece of software that checks in like Foursquare and Gowalla, because this industry isn't one. Why stray to MomentFeed as opposed to going out and building a piece of software that kind of was the flavor of the day?
Well, that's a great question, because that's what I was originally looking at.
Okay.
And this is what happens. As an entrepreneur, you think maybe the opportunity's in one place. And when I started talking to investors about the original MomentFeed idea, they said, man, the space is really getting crowded. And I got that enough times, and that was part of the signal to say, well, if it's getting crowded, you probably need a solution to bring it all together and make sense especially for large brands, for the Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmarts of the world. And that really in terms of social media data, what's more valuable to these companies than social media that's taking place at the point of sale?
Right.
It's one thing to be getting data on people that are at home in front of their computer talking about your brand. That has one level of value, but people are actually there, they're there. It's a whole nother level.
In your store.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where you can make the most impact, right? It's where it is at the point of sale. It's where people are making buying decisions. But I suppose you have to be delicate. Why don't you walk us through this process about how MomentFeed can help, just to paint a picture, how it can help a retailer, how a consumer can benefit. I mean, let's walk right through the process from start to finish.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we're building on the capabilities that Foursquare and Facebook and Twitter make available through their APIs. What we do is really just take those to the enterprise level, because Foursquare really, their focus is on the consumer. That's really what they need to nail. They need to keep that 1 million users per month signing up.
Yeah.
So they need to keep. So the stuff they do for the merchants is important. They put resources into it, but it's obviously not what they're doing, not what their entire team is doing all day, every day. That's what we do. So we take what they make available and we just make it, just take it to the next level, really. So when a company signs up for MomentFeed, we just take their list of addresses and geocode them and match them up to all of the different venues on Foursquare, Facebook. We use the Twitter Places product, which is a very underutilized product,
Sure.
but the data that comes out of it is really valuable because it's explicit tagging of a place and a tweet, so the people who are actually there in the store.
Yep.
And Gowalla, and then that's how we pull all the data and try to paint a comprehensive picture of the, not the people checking in. We kind of take a broader view to the check-in. Like our overarching mission is to be able to report anytime a consumer engages in any way through a smartphone with a location, and report that back to the brand, and then with as much information about that consumer and with the opportunity to reciprocate those engagements in the form of a customer service message or a deal, an offer, loyalty, again, whatever mechanisms the platforms that we integrate are making available, but taking them to the next level in terms of the performance, the measurement, optimization, really seeing what works, being able to do A/B testing, et cetera, all the really good stuff that marketers rely on in digital marketing, doing this kind of online to offline.
But it's pretty much in real time, wouldn't it be? Or it could be, where as we were talking about before, somebody's standing in a store, stamped their location or pushed out a Twitter post with a stamp of a location, that alerts or triggers something that says, okay, that is a McDonald's. So this person is, and then from that trigger, then you can do some A/B testing, whether you entice them with a free French fries or loyalty points or something like that. You're pushing it out to, basically you're individualizing this, aren't you? Or is this that's what you mean by A/B testing with this? That kind of person.
There's all sorts of A/B tests you could do. I mean, the simplest one example that we use is take a group of locations as a control group, and then another group of locations, and put up a Foursquare window cling.
Yeah.
Very, very simple.
Yep.
But like, you want to know, what does the window cling do?
Yep.
Does it give you does it increase check-ins? And I think we haven't run the test yet with anybody yet, because we're still developing the tool set. But that's the type of testing. Like, most of what companies have done so far have been these just kind of blanket offers and blanket, channel promotionals. It's like, what different channels are more effective in getting people to check in and redeem a deal? Is it using your social media channels? Is it point of purchase? Is it outdoor? Do you buy a billboard? Like, and that works two ways, because not only are you measuring the effectiveness of the measuring how much you're increasing your check-ins, but you also have another way to measure media that isn't necessarily measurable. Right. You put up a billboard, and
you get eyeballs, but you get cars driving by, but you really don't have a way to measure that.
And if you see your check-ins go up as a result of that billboard being put up, and then you take the billboard down and your check-ins go down, then you kind of know what the billboard did. Or a print ad. You can do a lot of different things.
But it's such a new industry, right? I mean, new, old. It's hard because it's new, old, I would say. I think that there is a check-in fatigue, so there's got to be a different way to do this. I don't think the check-ins have kind of come and gone. Now it's about a little bit more. It's meat, it's measurement, it's all these things. But because it's such a new industry, I mean, what should people expect? Are there any trends that you're seeing in the data that you're collecting with your beta customers that says, this is far more effective or far more measurable, or what has worked, what hasn't worked? Are you starting to see these things? Because that to me is where the real value. I know you're putting out white papers about some of these things, but is there anything that's stuck out for you?
We're still so early, even though we've been, working on this for more than a year. It still takes the scale of the users, and it takes the software and the technology to really be able to get to some of these answers. So honestly, a lot of them don't exist yet. I look at what we're doing as kind of, like Wayne Gretzky's old saying of, skate to where the puck's going, not where it is. Yeah. We've pretty much put a bet on where the puck's going, but it hasn't gotten there yet. But that's the direction that we're skating in.
And I mean, why do you think that is? Is this something that you look at and say, it's a natural piece, it's a natural evolution to that point? Or do you look at this and say, this is a phase? I wonder this question all the time, out loud. Anybody who'll listen, my family, friends, people on the street. I just asked this question. I said, is this an industry? Is location an industry, or is it a feature of something else? I mean, can a company like Foursquare hit a revenue point where they can actually excel, or is it going to be niche? Is location just a service, or is it an industry? Do you have a thought on that?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say that location is an industry, on its own. Everybody has a different approach to it. Foursquare Foursquare has become at its most basic, a social utility to let your friends know where you are.
Yeah.
And then it's got all these additional things layered on top of it. Whereas, Facebook is the utility to let your friends know what you're doing and sharing photos, and Twitter is a utility to broadcast to the world. So I group Foursquare in those big social utilities, and I think that's really where it's become ingrained, and that's why it has the growth that it has, that really mirrors Twitter almost to the day, in terms of its life. But I think they've got a better chance at a revenue model even than Twitter, though, because it's so tied to the point of sale. You know, that's really where it's happening.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks like they've shifted to a kind of a discovery engine. I mean, maybe they're taking a little bit away from the check-in, but much more about, so once you've identified your location, what's around you, the value. And
well, yeah, they need to go to the 90-10. You know, a lot of my friends don't tweet, but Twitter is their newsfeed. Yeah. But they don't compose. Right. They don't, you know, so.
And I use Foursquare for something completely different, which is that as I age, I forget where I've been. So it's
there you go.
It's an archive, right? People say, "Well, why do you tell me that you're at that restaurant?" I say, "Well, it's not for you." It's like, I mean, I stamp myself there because, look, when I'm back in that city, I want to remember that restaurant. I had a great meal, or remember to avoid that restaurant because it was terrible, right?
Yep.
So different uses, but that's
the utility aspect of it, which is that's the key to success, because that's where consumer attention is. It's in the utilities, the things you use every day. Yeah. And then everything else is value add. That's why, you know, the pure play shopping apps, that's a tough sell for me. Yeah. You know, because it's not something I'm thinking about. It's every single day. It's something I need to be reminded about when I walk into the store. Like, oh, I got to remember to open Shopkick. I'm just not going to do that. You know, I want it embedded in the utilities that I use every day, and Foursquare has become one of those utilities for me.
So, I mean, we're off on a tangent around Foursquare, but because it is the leader, and we're going to talk about Facebook and what they did with Places recently as well, and the way they view location, which is pretty cool. But I mean, on Facebook, it's really, or on Foursquare, it's really interesting that you said that, because you know, big brands are going out there. Every big brand seems to have their store app, right, which is flyers and locations and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I interact with many more brands every day than I even know, and the fact that I'd have to launch a bunch of applications to find out what's going on in those stores. Do you think that they're improving their brand value by doing that, or do you look at something like Foursquare and the distributed nature of the users and think, just hook onto that guy so that when you're nearby, we can start pushing message to you? Like,
it's just, obviously it varies from brand to brand. You know, if there's unique value that a branded app can provide.
Like what, though? I mean, that's what I think a lot of us are struggling with.
Like navigating, right? You know, navigating Costco, you know, Sam's Club or something like that. When I get in there, you know, it could just be really difficult to find things. There, or, you know, with Starbucks, just being able to place my order and purchase it. And not having to wait in line or go to the counter.
But it's interesting that's, like, you know, that's good. I mean, Costco internally is great, and wayfinding once you're in a mall, that might be interesting as well. But it's interesting that Starbucks hasn't created a check-in app, right? A loyalty app, and there must be a reason for that, isn't there? Or are they just, it's an omission by them?
Yeah, you know, I think I don't really think that any brand has really grasped the potential of this new channel, you know, of having people, because when people engage, you know, by definition, they're also volunteering data about themselves. Yeah. And the data you can get through the Foursquare Merchant API is just so rich when you really start to mine it. And that's what we're doing right now as we build out our version 1. And just, I think it's just a matter of putting it in front of these marketers and really showing them what's possible, and then I think they'll start to get it, and you know, maybe they'll consider a branded app, because our dashboard will integrate their branded app as well. But it's they just haven't. I guess they got their hands full with just managing their Facebook page and their Twitter right now, and that probably seems like a lot as it is.
And their business in general, right? Which is one of those things. Yeah.
Well, actually, this other coffee chain that we were talking to asked me, like, what social media metrics justify headcount? And I was like, that's a really interesting question.
That's a great
She's
question.
Like, is it like, one person per million Facebook likes, and then you add another person, to manage it? And I didn't have an answer for it, but I thought it was a great question. That's what they're struggling with.
That is a stellar question.
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean, I guess it comes down to, they know they have to do it. And I think that they're realizing that they can't put it off anymore. So they got to start looking at it. But you're right. It's a cost associated. It's a sunk cost until it starts to show value. And that sunk cost, you've got to absorb the cost of that, as opposed to, because people still people aren't going to stop going into Starbucks just because they don't have a social media strategy or a mobile strategy. I mean,
right.
And really, this is why MomentFeed is at that perfect cross section, because it's like, well, you can do this, but at least measure it so you see the results, and you can actually affix a cost to that. And you could probably answer the question that says, listen, you know what? It takes 19,000 check-ins to warrant a full-time position managing this, because with 19,000 check-ins, you can influence, 10% to buy, $4 more while they're in the store, and you can influence 13% to become part of an elite status reward card member. And that equates to this much. Remember, like, that's the stuff that MomentFeed is going to bring ultimately.
Well, there was one interesting little, it's not a full case study, but it's just more of an anecdote. Our platform is built around competitive intelligence.
Right.
So it's the ability for you to also see what's happening at your competitors on a one-to-one basis, and to benchmark your progress on that, because like, if you're McDonald's, and there's a Burger King down the street, you are competing for the exact same people.
Yep.
So they're the same people that would be checking in, and almost by definition, if they decide to go to McDonald's that night, they're deciding not to go to Burger King.
Right.
So that's where, that's where I think the data gets really interesting. And so we've got a case that we've just been monitoring independently. Let's just say it's two of the biggest coffee chains in Los Angeles. They're national, but we just have this account set up just for LA. It's about 150 locations each, for each chain. And one of the chains did this giveaway for some new flavors that they were launching earlier in the summer. You show up between 5 and 7 p.m. and you can get free coffee, basically, for these new flavors. And they did this twice throughout the summer, and both times the company doing the promotion had this huge check-in spike on both Foursquare and Facebook, even Gowalla and Twitter. You saw this, this huge spike, because I guess the lines were out the door, obviously giving away free stuff.
Yep.
But the competitor saw almost the same exact spike.
Really?
Because they're, in many cases, right across the street from each other. So one brought all these people, with the free offer, but
the lineups were so long.
There was clearly a spillover effect.
Yeah.
They saw the line was too long, and I'll just go over to there and get one and I'll just pay for one to not wait in line. It's just like one of these insights that they would have no idea that they actually drove all this traffic to their competitors if they weren't really monitoring the check-in activity.
It's so interesting. A lot that you brought up in there, because I'm going to assume that you could run MomentFeed on any chain and accumulate data. So you just geolocate it. You say, look, whatever, it's Target, for example, and there are, I'm up in Ottawa, Canada. We don't have Target yet, but they've just bought Zellers here in Canada, and every Zellers is being transformed. So in 2013, they're gonna be here eventually, right? It's a long wait. I'm not gonna line up and wait out in front for it, but they're coming. And they could have done so. For example, Target could have hired MomentFeed to then say, look, okay, I want you to geolocate all the Zellers stores in Canada and then watch activity, and then give us a report in 6 months or 3 months or a month on all activity and see how engaged they are. Or you could have done it to Target and said, oh, by the way, Target, we've been monitoring your stores for the last, month. Did you know that this is happening, or this is the kind of activity that you're seeing, or this is what people are saying? I mean, how is that how you sell this? Like, because I think it's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, because we can. So there's two layers of data. There's the public data that you get when you load a Foursquare page.
Yep.
And all that data is available through the APIs.
Right.
And that's how we build any account. And we also have a partnership with a company called Factual.
Yeah.
It's doing the big place database, trying to be the master location database. They're also the CEO is an investor in MomentFeed as well. So that's where we get our POI data. That's where we would go and get all of the target locations if we want, because that's what we need as our initial data point.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we can go and aggregate Foursquare and Facebook and Koala and Twitter check-ins, engagements, Instagram photos, pretty much anything.
Anything with a location attached to it, right?
Yeah, everything that has a location ID, Yelp reviews, etc. So we could go get all that information. Then there's the private layer of data that when you register your venue on Foursquare, you unlock this private layer of data, which gives you much more insights. Mostly it's about the users, it's about the people who are checking in, and that just unlocks a whole other level of data. But yeah, in our initial pitch, we show a potential client their account, their data, and
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's like, here it is. This isn't some canned demo. This is you, and here's some basic insights, and here's your login, because we've got a free version. Just start checking it out, and then when you want to upgrade, then you turn on all these additional features.
So I mean, why would somebody? I mean, when you're showing them their data, what are you showing them? Like, is it activity? Is it opportunity? Is it do you kind of mash them all up and say, listen, as a result of all of this, this is how you can sell. This is the opportunities. This is based on our research. You can increase, foot flow this way or purchases this way. If you like, what are you presenting to them?
Yeah, we're going to get to that point for sure when we get better cases, and we've got companies using it. Right now, it's really just that these people are by and large doing this organically. Like, yes. You're not incentivizing this behavior.
Yeah.
So every time somebody checks in, it's essentially earned media. Yep. It's going out to a social graph on Facebook or Foursquare or Twitter, sometimes two at a time, and that has inherent value. And so we're showing them, generally growth trends, over multiple weeks. We're showing them which networks they're getting the most engagement on in which regions of the country, because generally they're national or international. We even have, we built the IKEA account, 300 locations, 20 countries. It's great. It looks awesome. And Malaysia, the location in Malaysia is the most popular, the most checked into IKEA in the world.
Well, we're about to change that. Canada, obviously IKEA, just like everybody else, IKEA crazy, but Ottawa they're getting the largest store built in North America. It's a behemoth. I've never seen anything like this before. It's the largest store in North America. Is going to open up in the fall in Ottawa, and I think that you're going to see when you guys map that, you'll see an insane spike in activity because
You're going to have to plan the whole day because it already takes so long to get through an IKEA.
Well, this is like 3 floors.
They don't let you out. Like, you have to walk through their maze just to get out of the store. It's crazy.
It's brilliance, isn't it? But a lot of these companies are now, like, it's kind of 101. So you must be in the evangelism stage, which is, listen, and this is happening. I mean, I talk to companies all the time, and they say, we don't need this. We're not part of that. It's kind of like this. And my stock conversation to them is or response to that is like, okay, it's happening. You can either engage or you can ignore. It's much better to engage and understand, and you might not do anything with that data, but at least you're engaged, than to just say, look, we're totally not interested. But are we past that stage with some of the companies you're at, or are they still at that, like, We had no idea.
The way I put it is, we're at the showing a brand a Twitter search in 2007.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, look, you know, actually then I think it was called Surmise.
Yeah,
Twitter didn't even
Surmise,
have
yep.
search, right? And you'd show a brand this like in a meeting, and this is live data. It's just happening. And they're like, wow, people are really talking about us on this thing where people are supposedly only talking about what they're having for breakfast.
Right.
And you start to open their eyes with the data, with the content. And now look, you know, I mean, every company, right, most of the big companies now have embraced Twitter as an essential.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a year or so from getting to that point, another, you know, investor said it feels like DoubleClick in '98.
Yeah.
You know, where display advertising was, you know, completely early. Nobody knew how to do it, but DoubleClick got in there. Not only did they build the network and the technology, but they provided the professional services to show companies how to do a display ad campaign.
Yeah.
So those are two examples of, I think, where we are in the growth of this.
So what do you think is, I mean, we're on a good thread here, and I'm going to come back to some of the platform stuff in a second. But what do you think the influence or the impact of location and location aware marketing and ad display and you know, and almost real time interaction with a customer because of their location? What do you think this is going to do to, you know, that old industry that we're talking about? You go back as far as newspapers and print display or print advertising and couponing, and I mean, what do you think this is going to have an influence on all of that? But how big an influence do you think?
Well, you know, you just look at the amount of attention people pay to their smartphones.
300 times a day. I counted how many times I looked at it. 300 times.
And you and I are early adopters.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we're at 40% in the U.S. and maybe 30% globally. And by 2015, you know, smartphones are going to be free with a data plan.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to have one.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to have the access to the news and, you know, to Foursquare and to Facebook. So it's incomprehensible how big the change is going to be when everybody has a smartphone, and that's really what we're betting on. But then I think at the same time, all advertising is moving toward digital. You know, whether it's, you know, the out of home, like digital out of home, I think will be pretty big when we would like to tap into digital out of home.
Absolutely.
You know, to let our clients connect, you know, what's on those screens to what's on their smartphone, and then what's purchased there, and measure it all.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, what's on the billboard. You might just want to buy advertising on a digital billboard for the 20 minutes before dinner.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. I mean, I see a great time where you have augmented reality, where it's just a white billboard in Times Square, and based on your location and the time, somebody's bought that exact spot, or you know, a vector of that spot, and somebody holds up their phone to it and it says like Denny's that way, right?
Yeah.
Because the Denny's has bought that spot in that kind of augmented reality positioning based on, you know, where you know, the view of that billboard. It's just like, you know, 3 miles that way is Denny's, right? But that's the future.
Download it to your phone, and off you go. And then if you engage when you get there, you get some kind of discount, because, you know, the discount is not, you know, brands will say, look, the people are already in the store, why am I going to give them a discount?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you know, it's a measurement device. So whatever media you use to drive that, you can now measure it better.
Yep.
And it's earned media. You know, they're sharing it, and we can measure how many people they're potentially sharing it with.
Their reach, absolutely.
And they're volunteering their data, you know, to you, for future analysis, and, you know, to kind of learn more about your customers for a 20%, 10% discount. It seems like a pretty low cost, you know. So I think a lot of brands who have these no discount policies, like we don't discount, you know, and that's a lot of what big brands policies are, and for good reason. They spend a lot of marketing dollars and they price their goods very competitively as a result, and don't feel like they have to do that. But I think this will change a lot of their minds because the value will be there. The return on that 20% discount is huge.
Well, and it can be. There's I think that you give it a lot of thought about what it is that you're going to give away and what you're going to see in return. And but certainly that closing that loop from digital out of home, seeing the sign, and then or seeing the advertisement or getting the advertisement and actually walking into a store and buying something. That's kind of like it's chasing the golden chalice, right? This is the big thing. If you could do that, I mean, you know exactly where to market. You know exactly where to put your money in. And mobile.
Well, yeah, discount. Like take 10%, 20% discount, and then use the budget you save on your $1 million TV campaign that's not measurable at all.
Yep.
And you have no idea what the impact actually is.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. You might be reaching 1 million people, but how many of those people are actually, first of all, near something that you're selling, or actually go in and close that loop? I think,
and that's just Nielsen telling you that you reached 1 million people.
Yeah.
This third party that's people are at home with like a notepad. Still, like it's ridiculous how that we haven't been able to measure TV better. With all this technology.
Well, and I think about what's going on. So MomentFeed it's interesting because it might be just about location, but it could be like a franchise, like a television show, right? Where you do that. There's Miso and a bunch of other these technologies that allow you to check into the TV show, and these are probably more accurate when it comes to measurement than Nielsen's TV ratings, right? So all of this,
I was actually surprised at Facebook, with their acquisition of Hot Potato, that they haven't come out with something like that sooner, and kind of took a step back with the, you might have thought, okay, they acquired Hot Potato, then they launched a check-in to location feature.
Yeah.
How far back is the check-in to TV and media feature? Because it's just much more structured data for the advertisers. So it's a mystery about where they might be with all of that.
Well, let's talk about these platforms. A good segue, Rob. I think it's a good job. Somebody's moving this along, which is great, because I'm not. I'm just getting lost in the conversation. I mean, there's big platform play by Facebook. This was supposed to be the the Foursquare killer when they moved into the check-in economy and launched places, it was supposed to be the behemoth. But I've commented on this. I think everybody's commented on this, and I don't want to beat it up, but they said that basically Gowalla or Foursquare beat the giant in Facebook, saying like it was David versus Goliath and David won. I'm so tired of that analogy too. My God, we got to come up with a better one. But that's not how I view it. How do you view this Facebook Places and what Facebook's strategy is in location?
Yeah, well, to the David Goliath, everybody, I thought that was funny, and the way I would have put it is, I don't think anybody at Foursquare is celebrating, and I don't think anybody at Facebook thinks that they seeded anything.
Right.
It's just all the pundits, and everybody loves a good David and Goliath story.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, Facebook Places was great for Foursquare.
Yep.
It just
awareness
it's the rising tide.
Yep.
All ships go up. So it was really great for Foursquare. Actually, what is not good for was Gowalla.
Oh yeah, it killed Gowalla.
Well,
Gowalla killed itself. It like whatever they've done over I loved Gowalla. It was my choice, and I'm so disappointed because everything that was unique about it they've just stripped out. Sorry, but yeah. Yeah, so it really hurt Gowalla.
You had Gowalla was forced to essentially move up the stack, and to enable pushing to Foursquare.
Yeah,
and what Facebook did now, and I don't know if this was their intention, but the check-in feature enabled them to build the platform and to build this global database of places.
Yep.
And now they've actually gone down the stack. So they were essentially on the same level as Foursquare. And now they've said, we're going down below, and we're going to be the platform, and you can push all of your check-ins to us.
Yep.
And Foursquare lets users push their Foursquare check-ins to Facebook.
Yeah.
What's happening now is So Facebook's taken the broad approach of location-based engagement. Through any medium, future, past, present, you can engage with a place, a Facebook place page, essentially, through any device at any time. And we're also syncing up our Facebook place pages with the corresponding Foursquare venue, Koala venue, Yelp venue, and Scavenger venue. So on any given Facebook place page, you'll see the links to those venues. And Facebook has said that the check-in deals are still alive and kicking.
Yep.
So you're still going to be able to have deals, but now when the deal will get unlocked whenever you tag the place, and the deal will show up in your newsfeed.
Right.
So my prediction is that very soon they will turn it on, so when you do push a Foursquare check-in to Facebook, that whereas it just lands on the wall today, now that they're synced up, that Foursquare check-in will be tagged to the corresponding Facebook place. If there's a deal there, you'll unlock the deal. So you will get a Facebook check-in deal for pushing a Foursquare check-in to Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's what they just want to be, the catch-all.
Yeah.
And so if there isn't a Foursquare special and you push it to Facebook, you'll get the Facebook deal. Yeah. If there's both, you have the choice.
Well, so that's a pretty powerful spot to be in. It's basically location as dial tone, which is because I mean, when they tag, say, even a photo they tag a photo with a longitude and a latitude, it's geolocated. Same thing, right? It's just everything that goes into, with your permission, and everything that goes into Facebook, every post, every update, every photo, every video, every Twitter post, every Foursquare check-in, they're all going to have location on it or tagged to it, and it's a pretty powerful vein that they've tapped into that.
And I guess Foursquare is probably going to have to decide, maybe we don't want to let people push them to Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Maybe we want to turn that off.
It would have a tough thing.
Try to get down on that level with Facebook and just say, you need to have your local social graph, aggregated at Foursquare, and you don't need to push it to Facebook. That's redundant. But Twitter is fine because we love Twitter.
Well, it's true, and I mean, I'm eager to see what happens as a result of this when they roll this stuff out. But I want to come back to the challenges just for the last few minutes. You raised some funding, seed round, about a year after you started, so springtime of 2011, we'll say, and you've been working on version 1. You're still in beta. You've got a number of customers. How many do you disclose? How many people are using, or how many?
We've got 20,000 locations.
So that's a good segment of data that you're collecting, and a good beta test. What are some of the challenges that you've had in getting version 1 out? Is it just that? Is it just because it's a mountain of data that it's just so tough to find relevancy when you're paving the way? Is that what it is?
The biggest challenge, and we took our beta and ended up re-architecting the entire back end for version 1, and the challenge is you're dealing with incredibly granular data, like check-ins down to the hour, for tens of thousands of locations across any time frame. And having to process that in real time and display it was the biggest challenge, and we're having great success. It boils down to moving off of MySQL onto MongoDB with Scale-up as a processing layer. Now we're just getting these incredible speeds, and that's really the use case is, McDonald's wants to see, the past 30 days plus 1 day for, 1,000 locations in California. And, then they want to see all the different data points for that and, how it trended on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. So that's really, when you look at the Foursquare analytics dashboard that they give you, it's these very set date ranges. It's like past 90 days, past 60, 30, So that's pretty light processing for them.
Yeah.
Because it's all just stored in those chunks.
And now we know why.
Yeah, it's really hard to process that in real time and display it.
Yeah.
And like kind of like Google Analytics does. You know, you can just select any date range you want. So
yeah.
that was the first big challenge.
And so, I mean, do you guys have a launch date that you're working towards, or is it when you get it right, when you feel that this is the right base, when your customers or your beta testers are saying this is it? How do you determine when to launch?
We're shooting for the end of October, beginning of November, to essentially roll our current beta customers into what would be a new beta.
Yeah.
Because it really is ground up, the back end, front end, everything's new. And then at some point there, we'll call it version 1 and start selling it. So it'll be toward the end of this year.
And is this kind of is this an enterprise sale, or can a mom and pop pizza shop with 2 locations in one city, who are looking for a competitive advantage, so they want to basically spy on the pizzas or the Domino pizzas? Do you have a range of customers that you're targeting for? We talked about it at the beginning, like the McDonald's franchises, but
yeah, it's really the Fortune 1000 right now.
Okay.
That's the relevant ones, and or companies with 20 or more locations.
Okay.
So it is definitely more of an enterprise sale. It's just that it's really that when you have that many locations, our solution starts to make sense. It starts to add value.
So, last question about this. Last question. What's a key metric that these companies are measuring today that you think, listen, that they seem to glom onto, that they're attracted to, knowing that maybe it's not an advanced metric, but it's something that they're relating to. Is there a key metric that people should be looking at?
That's a good question. Like we're developing, we've had it in the beta and we're redesigning it, this notion of the engagement score for location. It's a 100-point scale, kind of like a cloud score. Yep. For location. And what it measures is more depth of engagement. So how much time, what we want to try to find is like how much time did people have the app open, whether it was Facebook or Foursquare, engaging with the location while they were there. So did they leave a tip? Did they take a photo? Did they share it off to Twitter and Facebook if they were using Foursquare? And just putting a scoring mechanism on there that's really independent of just the volume of check-ins.
Okay.
So that you could compare Madison Square Garden to a Starbucks on the engagement score, and they don't, it's not about the number of check-ins, it's just how deeply people were engaged. So that's what we're pitching as a key performance indicator that you can look at. But I don't think any of them are looking at any specific performance metric right now. Number of check-ins would probably be the one that we're still working with.
Well, you've opened up this kind of Pandora here with the engagement number. What do you think a location or a chain or a business would do with that? Say I score a 70, right? So I go to the same Starbucks, I engage, I check in, I leave tips, I take a picture of a friend at the Starbucks with Instagram, and later I upload it so it's geotagged to that location. I've done all this kind of stuff, and I have a 70 score. Obviously, I'm engaged enough to, I'm carrying that brand with me, so to speak. Now, is there a prescribed next step that Starbucks or Starbucks chain would do, to engage with me? It's kind of creepy when you say like, "Hi, Rob, welcome to Starbucks," or whatever it is. Noticed you've had Starbucks 19 times this month. Is there something that's prescribed? Is that where they kind of tailor a campaign to somebody who's like me, who's an influencer and who engages with their brand so closely?
Well, not so much to the influencer, but just trying to incentivize the deeper engagement behavior. So you might say, whoever leaves the best tip, at a Starbucks, over the next 2 weeks we'll win something.
Okay.
Right. So now you're engaged. Now you're incentivizing the deeper engagement, and as a result, you're going to see your engagement score go up because more people are leaving tips, and you know that it's predominantly going up because of tips,
right?
Because that's the one thing that you're incentivizing, and then the next campaign you might incentivize photos, and
it's simple to do, right? Which is
yeah.
the key. Like you just turn it on, and I mean, this is such a fascinating time and space, because it's being formed as we're doing this, and when you start to really think, and I think everybody who's listening or watching this and probably feels the same as Rob does and I do about this space, is it's so exciting to kind of forward think about the things that we're going to be able to do with this technology in a non-obtrusive way that's going to engage deeper with customers, that create that deeper relationship or bond with the customers and the brand, and done right, this can be so powerful. And when I hear companies, I'm sure the same with you, when I hear companies say like, mobile, schmobile, or location, I don't need it, like I hang my head and I think,
we've had one big company, their social media person said they basically wrote this off because redeeming specials doesn't scale for them. It's like
you don't get it then.
No, really. And you're the person handling their social media.
Yeah.
And you have all this rich data that you're not even paying any attention to. Just the data alone has tremendous value. And no, we just want to manage our Facebook page and our Twitter.
Carry on then.
Yeah.
Carry on pushing out the message because nobody's listening.
Your competitors, will, and your competitors are going to see what you're doing or not doing, and leverage that. And right now we're getting a lot of check-ins are people who were already there and they just check in. I think the next level is actually affecting behavior.
Yeah.
Where somebody's deciding where to go, and they think ahead of time. Okay, I'm either going to go here or here. Where can I get a better deal or better service, or And I think on the special stuff, it might not scale, but I think innovating on the special side with some surprise and delight, where all the places where I've redeemed Foursquare specials, I could probably go there today and it's going to be the same exact special running.
Yeah. Or it's expired.
Yeah. I want to go there and not know what the special is going to be. Yeah. Or when I open it up, maybe it's a different special for me.
Yeah.
And that, I think that is going to incentivize a lot of the behavior.
I can't wait I can't wait to watch this unfold, because it's been a promise for quite some time for those of us who have been engaged with this for quite some time, and I love that companies are now looking at this, and I love the fact that you had a choice where you decided you could either get into the location or the check-in game, or get into the measurement game, because really smart move. When you survey everybody getting into the check-in game, at some point somebody's going to have to validate all those check-ins across this this vast platform we call mobile, and I think that this is where the true value is. And I love the fact that you're taking your time with developing this, so that the metrics that you get are not just some figment score that you assign somebody who checks in 3 or 4 times. It's about deeper engagement, because that's really what this platform has. So I think I'm a big fan of what MomentFeed's doing, and we talked before we started this interview, is that Asif Khan, who's the founder and president and CEO of the Location-Based Marketing Association, we have literally conversations, 45-minute long conversations about analytics and measurement, because without what you're doing, this industry doesn't really have a sound footing. So I can't wait to see what you guys are doing and the results that you guys are going to be coming across. And hopefully you publish this stuff, right? Anonymously. But hopefully you get those trends and best practices that come out of this.
Oh, yeah, we definitely plan to. We will be in the unique position. We're approaching the space from the brand perspective, as essentially as the agent of these brands, saying, bring all of your data into one place, for analysis, and but then we'll be fortunate to have access to all of the data in the aggregate, and kind of like Yipit for daily deals, being that reporting. We definitely see ourselves fitting into that role as well, sure. Even though, we don't like to typically compare Foursquare to Facebook, we're kind of more in the business of comparing locations to one another and brands to one another.
I love it.
Or categories for that matter.
So Rob, where do people find out more information?
So our website, which still hasn't been updated since the funding, so we still need to do work there, MomentFeed.com. And if anybody's interested in participating in the beta, they can just send an email to info@momentfeed.com.
I love it. And you know, there's some white papers, there's some reports. Are you still operating? Are you still actually operating Max Gladwell? Is that still an active blog, or?
It's still live. I've been a little busy.
Rob, I'm running a business. Jesus.
There's good content there still.
Okay.
You know, even though it's getting a little old, it's evergreen content for the most part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it's new to a lot of people, right? If you've been writing about this for a while. Well, you know what I'd love to do, Rob, is that I'd love to have you back on when you launch the product and you start to see some of these trends that are coming out of it, because I think that this is really where it's interesting for small businesses and large businesses to understand some of the massive trends that are you know, some of the things that people are doing with this data, some of the things that the data is displaying, some, you know, conversion rates. Everybody's talking about, like, how do you know what a conversion rate is? Not just one store, but, you know, an average, and how do you gauge against yourself, right? So I think
we got a few big brands who we're going to be partnering with pretty closely on the version 1 launch, and then, you know, putting out case studies. And
I love it.
So we'll get back to you on that for sure. Okay,
well, I'd love to have you on that, you know, sometime in early winter, to try to see how these things are going as the data rolls in, because it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to people who are trying to figure out what this business means to them, to their business, and how to use this stuff, and how to put a metric around it so they know how they're doing in this industry, because it's a big black hole. Call it the fog of war, right? You only know what you're doing.
Very early.
Well, you know, 2% conversion rate on mobile ads is terrible to me. So how do you increase that? Is it terrible or is it not? You know, we call this the most personal device we carry. So I'm going to assume that it has a lot of data on me, and you have a lot of data on me, and the conversion rate should be much higher than 2% because you're pushing me relevant information. And I'd love to have you guys to try to figure that out for us. Ultimately, is what.
All right.
Well, Rob, I really appreciate the hour we've gotten to spend with you, and the insight and understanding about what MomentFeed is and why it's here. And for those of you, I'd go and check out MomentFeed.com and stay tuned. If you're a small company, have no fear. You know, you'll be able to leverage some of the data that comes out of MomentFeed to your benefit. But if you're a large company interested in doing a beta, go and check them out. Get in touch. Info@MomentFeed. Anything else, Rob?
No, that's about it. Have a happy Labor Day weekend.
I love it. Rob, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. Guys who are still watching, gals who are still listening, wherever you may be, check in. Let us know what you thought about this. Untethered@gmail.com. I really appreciate the fact that you come back day after day after day after day to watch these things or listening to these things. Keep doing it. Keep sending me email, and we'll see you next time on Untethered.tv. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.